1. Our essential nature and its apparent failing. In this way, when the imaginary self comes into apparent existence, the true and only I of awareness is seemingly veiled, and, along with it, so is its innate peace and happiness. Once the imaginary self has come into apparent existence, the innate peace and happiness that is the simple knowing of our own being is apparently veiled. As a result, this imaginary self leaves the now, where awareness eternally resides, and ventures out into a past or a future, seeking an object that will reinstate this lost peace and happiness. Such is the fate of the imaginary self, to be forever escaping the now in favor of a past or future where it hopes to find an object, situation, or relationship that will provide the peace and happiness for which it longs. But as we all know only too well, the separate self is never satisfied. It is always frustrated. It never finds what it wants. No sooner does it find what it wants than it no longer wants it. And off it goes again in the never-ending search for peace and happiness in a non-existent future. However, it never finds and will never find what it seeks, because it is looking in the wrong direction. At some stage, having been failed sufficiently often by the objects that are on offer in the realm of the mind, body, and world, we turn around and question the one who is in search. However, when we turn our attention towards that one, we don't actually find a temporary, limited, seeking self. We find this open, empty, undisturbable, and naturally fulfilled presence of awareness. It finds or recognizes itself, ever present, unlimited, and without agitation or lack. That discovery is the experience of peace and happiness for which the imaginary self was in search. However, the imaginary self can never find or have the experience of peace and happiness for which it longs, because its apparent presence is the veiling of it. In other words, the separate self seeks peace and happiness like a moth seeks a flame. The flame is all the moth wants, but the one thing it cannot have. Peace and happiness is all the separate self longs for, but the one thing it cannot have. as the moth touches the flame for which it longs, it dies. That is its way of knowing the flame, by dying into it, by becoming it. Likewise, that is the way the imaginary self discovers what it longs for, by dying into it. The imaginary self can never have or know peace and happiness. It can only die or dissolve. And that dissolution is the experience of peace and happiness. All we have ever truly longed for in life resides in the simple knowing of our own being, as it truly is. And this is available 24/7 to all 7 billion of us. It is never totally veiled, just as the blackest image never totally veils the screen. Thus, even our darkest feelings never truly veil the light of awareness in which they appear, with which they are known, and out of which they are made. All that is needed is to look at our experience and to have the courage to live the implications of what we find.